if you could imagine, we're actually all at work here still.
Are you muting?
Yeah, I'm muting everybody.
Okay.
All right, and am I recording? Let's see. Yes, I'm recording. All right, welcome everybody. So in the chat, I put a document, a Word document. Hey, Chelsea. I put a Word document that you could download. I'm going to sort of follow that as an outline. It's got a lot of detail in it. I'm using this sort of as a basis. I'm putting together a safety and operating playbook, right? Which I'm going to be sending to everybody. Hopefully, I'm thinking early next week. It's going to have a lot of this kind of detail. It's going to be laid out much nicer than my notes here, which will be very helpful.
Resend the doc because if you came in later, then you won't get the.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if it's at the top?
Yes.
All
like,
right.
I don't have.
I'm going to upload the document again because my trusty assistant here says that I need to do that. All right. So it's there. All right. So it's back up. All right. So the reason why, so the document, by the way, is called LLDC-19. That's not to make fun of COVID. This is actually our 19th summer at Liberty Lake. What a coincidence, right? So it's just one of those great things. So I have to, so one question, to me, it's like one of the greatest questions ever. And yet, would you believe that in the last month or whatever, that only one camp parent, and it's a new camp parent, asked me this question, which is, Andy, why are you opening camp? Why is Liberty Lake opening camp when what it seems like the majority of other camps aren't opening? And someone that used to be the president of the American Camp Association, I could tell you that it's about, nationally at this point, it's probably like 70% of camps aren't opening for various reasons. The majority of sleepaway camps aren't opening because the governments won't even let them open, which to me seems crazy because sleepaway camp seems like a pretty safe proposition, if you ask me, compared to day camps, certainly. But the reason why we're able to achieve this is, oh, she's saying she can't hear.
Tell her.
You can chat. You can go chatting to her. Tell her to unmute or whatever to check her thing. But the reason we're able to accomplish is a couple things. First of all, we're outdoors, right? We're completely outdoors. So for years and years, people are like, "Oh, Liberty Lake's outdoors. Can you believe it? That low rent place, they don't even have a dining hall and all that kind of thing." And now it turns out it's a blessing in disguise, right? What's up, Brady? So. Also, so besides being outdoors, we're on 60 acres, okay? And we can really spread out. Another thing is that we have a really long driveway. So even if people don't want to take the bus, which a lot of people are opting out of the bus this year, they can still drive. We're able to accommodate a lot of people driving in and out because of our whole system. And then, on top of that, I feel like also, I have a director crew. So myself and my wife and Joe and Brandy and my facility crew, we've been here a long time, and I think that really adds to it also. And the fact that we started this camp from scratch, when you start a camp from scratch and you have no money and no facility and you have to start something, that sort of puts you through a rite of passage into itself. And then on top of that, I started another camp 10 years ago up in Massachusetts and went through the same thing again. And then not to mention my son had cancer for 7 years. I think that when you've gone through enough tough things, it primes you for this kind of moment. And I do feel like, when you have an opportunity like we have here at Liberty Lake, so we started this camp, there were no quality camps between the Princeton and Philly area, right? It was just this void. And we filled this void. We've helped people with childcare all these years. And now we have an opportunity to really step up and do it. I feel like, why not try? Why not at least, give it a whirl, right? We were waiting for all this time to see what the guidelines would be. And then we finally got them and we're like, you know what? This is doable. We can make this happen. So that is why we're doing it. It's not because we're going to lose our shirts if we didn't run. I mean, I got to tell you, all my colleagues who have bailed out during this time, they're going to be at the beach in Margate, all right, while I'm sitting here doing hard work. And it would be a lot easier to do what they're doing this summer, and I am not. So anyway, outdoors, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to start going down this list. And so number one question I keep on getting from parents is all about masks and social distance. And I know I've sent stuff out and you can read the guidelines, but frankly, if you read the American Camp Association things, the Board of Health things, the CDC things, it's all very hazy and a little confusing, and it's all up for interpretation. But I work very, very closely with the New Jersey State Board of Health. The New Jersey State Board of Health has this guy running it that's been there for as long as Liberty Lake has been here, basically. And we work very close together with the American Camp Association and the New Jersey Board of Health. And we actually have helped them make their standards higher in some areas and sort of even them out now, so that American Camp Association camps are sort of the standard. And now when Board of Health comes to visit a camp, if you're an American Camp Association camp, that sort of just clarifies like 80-90% of it right off the bat, because they know that you're in compliance, if not above it. So when it comes to the mask thing and the socially distant thing, I'm looking at little Brooklyn Pinkerton here on the screen. So Brooklyn is going to be in this group, all right, of, I don't know, Brooklyn, I'm guessing you're 6 years old now or 7 or something, but she's going to be in this group of, let's say, 7-year-old girls. And let's say there's up to 20 kids in this group. These 10 to 20 kids with their 3 to 4 staff, they do not have to socially distance. They do not have to wear a mask. The phrase used for them clinically now is they're like a family unit, just like a family unit at home. And this model is sort of taken from all the daycare centers that have been running for the last 3.5 months or whatever. There have been 400 plus daycare centers open in the state of New Jersey, and there hasn't been one case of COVID in those daycare centers during that time. And one of the reasons they're able to do that is keeping the family unit together. So while I wanted very badly for us to be able to have a smaller group and have that group be part of a bigger group of like 50 and be able to do electives within that group of 50, State Board of Health said we can't do that. They said, but we will let you expand your group to 20, which is way bigger than we normally have, but it will work for us. I'll get more into how the groups go. So the group, so these campers, the 27-year-olds and the let's say 2 group leaders and 2 counselors, or a group leader and 2 counselors, whatever. They are going to be like a family unit. They can hug each other. They can be close to each other. Whatever they got, you got. Like, we're just going for it in that regards. Okay, that's still going to be the essence of camp there. Okay, the only difference, right? The only time that let's just start with the counselors. The only time the counselors have to wear masks, we're saying, is on the bus if they ride the bus, is if they go inside the health center, like the nurse's office or the regular office, and if there's a crazy rainy day situation, like for those of you who were at family night, 3 years ago that I still have not gotten therapy for, when we have to really get together close at that point. Right? And I'm actually going to give my counselors, they're going to have a gator, Liberty Lake gator that they're going to have around their necks. So we want parents to send their kid with a face covering, but the fact is they don't really have to use it much, right? We're going to say on the bus it is recommended, but it's not required, okay? They're going to be distance on the bus anyway. They're going to be 1 kid per seat unless they're siblings, then they'll be together. Okay, and we're gonna, on a beautiful day like today, we'll have the windows open and such. And certainly once they get to camp, again, unless they go into the nurse's office, unless they go into the main office, they're not inside. And we're gonna have spare masks anyway, if we need it, okay? In regards to social distancing and stuff, they're gonna stay distant from the other groups. So their pod of 10 to 20, right? They're not going to interact with the other groups of 20. So historically, Brooklyn would be in the freshman division, and that freshman division would have 150 kids. And when it was elective time, she'd be able to go to any of those electives with that group of 150 kids. That's not going to be the case this year. We're going to be doing it a little differently, which I'll get to in a moment. All right. So but I just want to talk about masks and social distancing. So her counselors in her group, they're fine. They're a family unit. But the counselors that are not part of their group, that's different. They're not part of the unit, okay? So if I hired Karen over here to be the fishing instructor, okay? So Karen would be doing fishing and she'd be running fishing. She's seeing groups from all over camp throughout the day, okay? So she's not part of a family unit. So Karen, luckily, we work outside, because if we worked inside, you'd be wearing a mask all day, okay? But because we're outside, you don't have to wear a mask unless you stay distant, unless you stay, 6 feet or more away from these kids. So the people running these activities could theoretically run them like a head coach would run them, distant from the team, just barking out orders kind of things. And then the counselors and the group leaders are going to be the ones that are hands-on with the kids. Same thing at swim lessons. The person running swim lessons, if it's not one of their counselors, is going to have to stay distant from them. Now, if the fishing lady wanted to get close to a kid and help them with their reel, then they would put a mask on, okay? So staff that are not part of the group, they can stay 6 feet away outdoors and not have a mask. But when they're going to be any more than that, when they're getting close to a kid, when they're getting clipped with their belay to get on the zip line, that counselor is going to have a mask on. All right. So you need to prep the kids on that. And frankly, I've been seeing lots of kids coming for tours and stuff like that. They seem pretty prepped on this. They seem pretty much like they understand this kind of thing. So specialists, lifeguards, division leaders, office people who are not normally with that pod of 20. Those people are either going to have to be socially distanced or masked, okay? And, the guidelines that say, if you guys actually read the guidelines, if you wanted to do the work and read that, it says, kids and staff should try to wear masks, when outdoors, but not when it's too hot, which, by the way, basically means outdoors in the summer. Okay, not when they're 2-year-olds or younger. We don't have 2-year-olds here. Not if they're special needs kids and they have tactile issues. Not if they have respiratory issues, asthma, that kind of thing. So Brandy, who works with me, right, in the summer, she's like, like my right-hand person in regards to the program and all that. She's one of our directors. She has bad asthma. She can't wear a mask. She just can't. Like, she'll start coughing uncontrollably if she puts a mask on. So she's just going to stay distant from the kids, plain and simple this summer. That's just how she's going to have to be. And she knows it. And it stinks, but that's the way it's going to do. A lot of stuff stinks, but it's like, you know what? We're going to suck it up for the summer and do it. Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. What about new children who join after week 1? Is the 20 a maximum exposure total? Or as additional children?
All right, great question. I know what that person's getting at. So we don't, I guess we don't have to, the group of 20, that max of 20 is going to be, it's a max of 20 for any week. And the kids do change each week. I'll tell you this though. As soon as we decided that we were going to run camp, the majority of the people that come like 2 or 3 weeks extended to most of the summer. And the majority of the people, the new people, the refugees, as I call them, who are not on this call, okay, the people whose camps closed down, who have now come to us, all right, the majority of those people signed up for the entire summer, all right? So yes, the group is not a really finite 20, so there may be a couple of kids leaving and coming each week, but the majority of those kids will be together the majority of the summer. We could have said, okay, Liberty Lakers, you have to come the entire summer and be in that group. We could have said that, or we could have said, we're coming the first 4 weeks or the last 3 weeks or something like that. We could have done that. But the thing is, we didn't have to. So we said, you know what? People's schedules are so whacked out and all over the place, and the vast majority are going to be together. And let's be realistic. It's a day camp. In the end, these kids are going home and we don't even know what they're doing, and the staff as well. We're going to talk a lot about social responsibility and that kind of thing too, which is really important. But it would mean more to me if we were a sleepaway camp and we were literally in a bubble, like the NBA is going to be in a bubble kind of thing. This is far from a bubble. So yeah, unfortunately, they're not going to be the same kids every single week. They will be 90 to 95% the same kids, okay? Keep on moving on. I'm going to have plenty of time to address questions too, and I might be answering a bunch along the way. So the groups. So we had to combine groups. So normally we have about, 50-something groups at this camp. This year, we're going to have 30-something groups in this camp because we're taking the groups that normally have like 15 kids and we're making them 20 for the most part. And at this point right now, the majority of our groups are closed for most weeks, okay? We cut things off. We are going to have about 100, 150 less kids per day than we normally have here at Liberty Lake. And by the way, If I was a psycho, I could double the amount of kids that I had here this year because the phone has not stopped ringing since we got the go-ahead about camp starting. And not only are there people coming out of the woodwork from every other camp, and I'm talking from all over the place. I mean, up in all the camps up in Mercer County and Monmouth County, all the camps in Camden County, everybody wants to come to Liberty Lake all of a sudden, right? But not just those, we're getting tons of staff too. So we're going to have an unbelievable all-star team of staff, because we're going to have like the head of ropes from the JCC camp is going to be like just another ropes guy at Liberty Lake this year. Like we got a lot of really, really talented people, which is super. And I have to say, big picture, because I know you're probably curious about this. So when Liberty Lake was enrolling, all right, before the zombie apocalypse, right? When it came to like the first week of March, we were probably about 2/3 filled at that point, when all heck broke loose. And at that point, from that point until now, I'd say that close to 30% of that 60% withdrew. All right, so Liberty Lake families withdrew. And they got, so that's sort of, so I would say that this year, your kids group is probably going to be half Liberty Lake families and half new families. New families, by the way, which will probably stay Liberty Lake families, is what they're telling me at least, because they're coming and they're seeing this place and they can't believe how great it was, blah, 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 you know. So, all right. So we talked about the group size, activities. All right, let's talk about the activities. So elective-wise and such, and activities. Generally speaking, you know, as far as Brooklyn over here is concerned, her day is not that much different than it ever was, okay? She comes in the morning and she meets with her group, you know, and they go to free choice and they play together as a group. So they're not going to be playing with all the kids her age, but they're going to be playing just with the 20 kids in a group during free choice. And when a special event happens, it's maybe the whole division goes to the special event, but if they're doing an obstacle course, her group's going to be doing the obstacle course with just her group, all right, not with all the other kids. They might even be their own obstacle course just for their group. We're thinking through all the different things that we have to do. And trust me, every day we say to ourselves, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. All right, every day we're doing that. And we're coming up with more and more changes to things. But there's so many things, I have to tell you, that are possible. There's so many ways that we can do things and still be creative and do things, right? And it's just so disappointing to me, all the programs out there that decided not to try this, because it is really hard. This is really hard, but it is not out of the realm of possibility. This way that we came up with to do the activities, this took us like, you know, I don't know, 2 hours to come up with once we heard what we have to do. This is not rocket sciences, right? But it's just taking people out of their comfort zone. And you know, for the kids who are coming and for the staff who have been here for years, the thing that concerns me is that we're changing their pattern. Like one of the beauties about camp is that you come to camp and it's the same, right? And right? This year it's going to be different. Right? You're going to be washing hands constantly just to start off the bat. So the big activity difference is the way we do electives. So you saw, I sent you guys an email that for you guys to make a top 10 list for each kid based on the general definitions, the general descriptions that I made of every single activity. We're asking you to do that so that then we can look at that group. So that, let's say Brooklyn is in the group Notre Dame, right? We can then download all of the choices, the top 10 choices from the kids in Notre Dame. And we can see, oh, wow, this group really likes fishing. Like half of the kids here put fishing as one of their top choices. And we'll make sure that fishing gets heavy into their rotation. Okay, that's why we're doing that kind of thing. So from a user standpoint, from the kid, so here's this group of kids, this, let's say 17 kids, right? And it's an elective period. It's Monday morning, okay? And it's second period. It's time for their elective. And I'm their group leader. I'm going to say, okay, here are the choices for this week, for this period, okay? You can go to boating with Katie down at boating, okay? Or we can do lanyard with your counselor, all right? And let's say 15 or whatever, 12 kids decide to go boating. And remember, these groups are going to have at least minimum 3 staff. The younger kids, right, the 5, 6-year-olds are going to have 4 staff in a group, okay? So, but 7 and up will have at least 3 staff. So one or two of their counselors will go to boating with the kids, depending on how many kids are going there, where there's a specialist who's going to be running boating, but be socially distanced, okay? And then the other two counselors are going to take the other kids up to Lanyard to do Lanyard with the kids, okay? Now the next period comes, and it's another elective period. And by the way, that's for the week. So that's that period for the week. Now, if the kid went to boating on the first day and said, oh, I hate the lake, I don't want to go to boating or whatever, they can switch and go to Lanyard tomorrow. We don't care. It's not a big deal. We're doing it within this group of 20. These kids are only, when those kids go up to Lanyard, there could be another group doing Lanyard up there, but they ain't going to be together. They're going to be at a different picnic table, 2 picnic tables away, all right, doing Lanyard. So we're able to have some sort of choice by having that bigger group. That's why we like the group of 20. So the next period comes, and we say, okay, Chelsea, this is what we're doing. You can go to Taste Buds, all right, or you can go to Gaga. And now this group of 20 decides. They go Taste Buds or they go to Gaga, right? And they split and go off from that, all right? We may even come up with a way that there might even be a third choice where it combines another group, but they stay socially distant. Not sure. We're still coming up with things. But at a minimum, it's that. So the goal here is that, like, for Lucas Logan, okay, who is an active kid, and he is here to run around until he drops, right? He's like a racehorse. So he wants to do active things. He wants to play Gaga and basketball and things like that. There will always be an active choice for Lucas, okay? So, you know, there's always going to be a creative choice, and there's always going to be an active choice. That is the goal, all right, for these kids. And, you know, I was telling Karen when she got on early, I've been telling people, you know, Liberty Lakers, the old people like you guys, the veterans, the kids, these kids need to get briefed on this. They need to understand that it's not going to be the Greek diner menu, okay? It's going to be the pool snack bar menu when it comes to choice here. And it's, you know, the kids at Liberty Lake have really had it good in regards to being able to choose and do whatever they want and all those kind of things. But the fact is, at this point, you know, like I said, on my first email that I sent back, like right when all this crap hit the fan in March, we're going to be trading a lot of bells and whistles for safety measures. And this is the big one. Okay. Do we have any questions here you want me to address in that, in this realm?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to questions. Okay. So yeah, we hope in 2021 we go back to the same thing. Okay. Let's talk about instructional swim. So instructional swim at Liberty Lake is mandatory for kids going into entering 4th grade. So from pre-K up through entering 4th grade. And then it used to be, normally it is an elective period for 5th grade and older. We are not going to do instructional swim for older kids this year because that requires them coming to the pool when younger kids are there, which normally is okay, but now it's not, okay? So for older kids, they will still be able to get a second swim. They'll be able to do Polar Bear Club in the morning, which is when they swim in the lake. They can do swim team, or they can do, if they're seniors, they can do junior life saving if they want to do more swims, okay? But everybody gets free swim. That's with the division that we don't have to worry about. Instructional swim. So normally we send a half a division up to instructional swim. So we send all the sophomore boys up, okay? Which could be like, you know, 100 kids, 75 kids. And out of that 75 kids, we're able to make a couple of beginners groups and a couple of minnows and a couple of marlins and a couple of dolphins. And we can have this wide array of swim groups, right? All intermingled with the different groups. So we can't do that this year. So what we have to do this year is we have to, again, focus on the core group. So from what the swim instructors tell me, a typical group of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, 5-year-old boy, whatever, they all generally swim. So here's the group, okay? They all generally swim at this level, right? So, you know, you're going to have some kids who are beginners and some kids who are advanced, but the bulk of the group is at the same level generally. So they'll be able to get taught together. And then we're going to use the counselors and the group leaders, the assigned counselors and group leaders. I'm going to pay them more to be swim assistants this year. And they're going to have to jump in the pool and be there. They're going to be the hands for the swim instructors. Because the swim instructors, again, are seeing people all day. They're lifeguards and such. So they're going to have to stay distant. So will swim instruction be as good as it normally is? No. Will it still be good, though? Yes, it will still be good. We'll still be able to make progress. But instead of sending weekly swim cards, what we're talking about this year is sending every other week. So we're going weeks 3 to 7. We'll probably send swim cards like 4, 6, and 8 is what we're thinking, because we're just lowering our expectations a little bit there. Yeah. All right. Sanitization.
Can we do a quick question? So like with Gaga, can it only be played with the group?
Yes.
Okay.
Gaga can only be played with the group. Correct. Because if you ever were in a Gaga pit, it's sort of like being in a mosh pit, right? It's very similar. So, which, by the way, it's not on my list here, but I want to address it because Gaga leads me to before and after care.
Good,
So, all right. So for those families that are doing before and after care, before and after care has normally been a big, joyous playground kind of situation. It's like a Montessori vibe of big kids looking out for the little kids and all that kind of thing. And it's been wonderful. And for many kids, it's their favorite part of the day. Not this year. This year, before and after care is going to look a lot more like what before and after care probably looks like at your kids' elementary school. This is going to be a little more boring, right? So for kids that are in before and after care, I recommend highly that you get a backpack and you pack a book and you pack things to do, because we will have things for them to do, but not a lot. And they're only still going to be able to play with the kids that are in their 20. So if they're fortunate enough to have 5 kids in their group that are in aftercare together, well, then they can go play basketball together or Gaga or something like that. But otherwise, they're not going to be able to, right? So our counselors will do their best we can with them to keep them occupied and fun, give them things they can do on their own or with the few kids that are in their pods. But that's the reality of the situation. We can't just let them go roam free, right? Then all that hard work we did all day will just go out the window. So unfortunately, that's the reality. So that's what I've been telling people, only use before and after care if you really need it, because it's not going to be super fun. It's going to be, it's going to be what it is, right? Which is just controlled babysitting in a way, and fun as we can make it within that constraints that we have. All right. So washing hands. So the number one way, and so just so you know, when I come up with this stuff here that you're seeing, this is stuff that is synthesized from the CDC, the American Camp Association, that hired this company EH&E, which is a workplace environmental engineering company, right? That would put out this huge field guide for us, which was given the stamp of approval by the American Association, Society of Pediatrics, or whatever heck the acronym is. And then on top of that, talking to camp professionals all around the country, many of which have opened their camps already. One of my best friends opened his sleepaway camp a week and a half ago in Texas, okay? And it's been going great for him. Another one of my good friends opened up his day camp this past Monday in Los Angeles, and it's been going great. And then also, we have so many health professionals that send their kids to our camp, including, by the way, the CEO of the Cooper Health Network, okay, who signed his 3 kids up for 7 weeks after his kids' camp closed, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe he was going to sign up anyway. And he's been whispering in my ear also and giving me lots of great advice. And the number one advice that he can give for on-site here at camp is washing hands, right? That, the kids are going to wash their hands before and after everything they do. We're going to have hand washing stations and hand sanitizing stations. And that's just going to be part of the deal. And I certainly hope, I'm optimistic, that these kids have been drilled for the last 3.5 months, that that's what they do anyway. And frankly, I think the kids are probably going to be pretty good at it. From what I've seen in on my tours that have been coming here, it's the staff that I'm concerned about. Although when I see staff telling kids what to do, then they have to be the role models and they have to do it also. And this is going to be worked into our staff orientation big time. And we're constructing, like I said, hand washing stations and such all over the place. There will be no place they can go to for an activity that there's not an opportunity to at least have a big thing of hand sanitizing stuff. When all of a sudden we realized we had to do, all the things we had to do because we were going to open camp, we've been out shopping for PPE, every day. My wife, it's probably an hour a day combined that she's shopping for PPE stuff. And at the first time we were able to do it, we bought a pallet of hand sanitizer. It was like 108 gallons of hand sanitizer. And I'm thinking we might need a second one. Fortunately now, the distillery in Mount Holly is now making hand sanitizer, and we can go down there and get it also. So that's the big thing with washing the hands. So besides everybody having clean hands, between periods, the people running the activities will be wiping down as well as they could. Okay. Besides that, we bought 4 electrostatic cleaners. Like, I'll show you one of these Ghostbuster. It's big. It's over there. Basically, 2 backpack ones, right, and 2 handheld ones. So the handheld ones look like leaf blowers. The backpack ones look like Ghostbusters. And we're going to be using those on a continuing basis throughout the camp. By the way, very expensive. Okay. We'll be using them on the playgrounds. We'll be using them in the changing rooms. We'll be using them in the dining area, like the lunch tent and such. We'll be using them wherever we can because they cover a lot of terrain very, very quickly. Playgrounds is probably the #1 reason to get these things. We have 2 ladies that are going to be working for us full-time this summer that are literally going to be like the Ghostbusters. That's going to be like their main part of their job, is making sure these things are sanitized like this. Besides all the other cleaning crews and all the stuff that we do on a normal basis anyway. All right. Sanitization. Let's talk about health screening. So at first we thought that parents were going to have to literally fill out like a form every day. And, whether it was a hard copy thing or an online thing, and we were preparing for that. And then we got our guidelines from the state and they said, no, we don't have to do that. So I'm not going to make you guys do that. But you certainly do have to check out your kid every day. So, when it comes to what we do at camp, we screen the kids anyway. Like, that's part of what we have to do anyway. That's part of the guidelines of operating a camp, is that you have to give a kid a once-over when they come to you in the morning. Because if they come to you and they look nauseous, or they look, like they have a fever or whatever, we got to get them out of here, coronavirus or not. Like, that's just always been a thing. And I'm sure many of you have gotten phone calls from our nurse saying, hey, your kid's just not doing well. You got to get them out of here, right? It's just a normal thing. So now, of course, we're just going to be more militant about it. So you guys need to be more militant about it at home. All right. So one thing that the state did say that we had to do that we didn't expect, we were going to temperature check all of our staff because we just thought that was the right thing to do. The state now says we have to temperature check everybody. One moment. All right. That's my dinner. So upon arrival, we will have those infrared, boop, right on your forehead, thanks. And we're going to be doing it. So we're trying to figure out a system to do it so that we don't create a huge bottleneck up at the top of our area where the buses arrive and the cars drop off. So what we're going to probably do, what I'm thinking, is that it's going to be done towards their actual arrival area. So every division at camp has their own arrival area, like their own assembly area. We don't assemble as a camp all together normally, okay? So we can catch them as they're arriving to those areas and create like a little line for them to get it done. And basically we have to log if they fail, right? So if you fail, that means you have 100.4 fever or more, right? And at that point, we're going to send them to our quarantine tent, another new for 2020, where we will at some point be calling you and saying, hey, I know you just dropped your kid off, but can you turn around and get them because they're too hot? All right. So, and the same thing on the bus. I'm not going to leave it to my 16-year-olds on the bus to be doing it. Some camps are doing that. I don't trust them. Someone took my temperature the other day here, and I wasn't even alive as far as the temperature goes. So, I want to have trusted adults that can do these kind of things. So, my advice for you guys is check your kid's temperature. Check if they feel a little warm in the morning. If they feel a little warm, do an actual temp check on them, because I don't want to have to send them home. Okay. And then, what you guys, the little outline here, which again, I'm going to send you a much nicer version of this eventually, hopefully next week. These are the things that you're going to have to check for, fever and chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle, body aches, headaches, new loss of smell and taste, sore throat, congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, right? If they have a couple of those things, you shouldn't send them to camp, right? Just play it safe, right? That's what we got to do. Anything?
Yes, I have many.
Okay, we got many.
So, will we be notified if a staff member or camper registers a fever and is sent home, or if a staffer or camp tests positive? What happens?
We're going to get to the testing positive thing later.
Okay.
If a kid if the counselor in your group has a fever, or honestly, even if they, of course, test positive, but we're not testing anybody here. They're going to find out when they go home if they test positive. But yes, we're going to let you know. Absolutely. So, the guidelines say we have to let everybody know. We, of course, would have anyway. And just, try to keep it, try to keep people's confidence, together. So we're not just like broadcasting. It's not going to be a Facebook post. All right. But yes, of course, we would let them know. Okay. Transportation. So we started talking about this a little bit in regards to the bus. So the bus company, Lord, I hope they get enough drivers, because can you imagine? These drivers have been unemployed since the beginning of March, making an extra $600 a week, right? So I hope they can field these buses. That is my fear right now, because we're going to need more buses than we normally have. So we're going to have less kids this summer with more buses and more staff and tens of thousands of dollars of cleaning supplies, et cetera, right? So this is a serious financial commitment that we're making here in Endeavor. So like I said, 1 kid per seat unless siblings. The bus company is going to sanitize the bus after every single run. So they're cleaning the bus after every single run. The buses are not going to be used by anybody else. Our buses. The staff people on the bus are going to wear masks. We're still going to do fun on the bus. I was reading something the other day. This camp decided not to run, and they're like, oh, we're not going to run because we can't sing. Because if the kids sing, then particles are going to go in the air. And it's just like, oh my God, how could you have kids at camp not sing? Like, that just seems nuts. So we're still going to have fun on the bus. We have to. That's just a part of what we do.
Can you go over the drop off and pick up for parents who've chosen to drive instead of taking the bus?
Oh, that's true, because a lot of people have taken the bus here in the past, but they've never dropped their kids off before. So you're like new families in that regards. So in the mornings, if you drop your kids off, and this is a new thing for you, it's very easy. You come down the driveway, you follow, there's a little trail that you take. You just follow the person in front of you. If you're the first one here, there'll be someone guiding you. You basically make a loop around the driveway so that your passenger door is facing the Twin Cedars Pavilion, that top pavilion. You stop your car, you do not get out. We open the door, we say, hey, good morning, how's it going? Come on out. We greet your kid, they come on out. You close the door, you drive away, because there's 10 people behind you right now, okay? So it's just this big loop, and you do not get out of your car. You do just, unless it's absolutely necessary, right? If you absolutely have to talk to somebody, go park, okay? Because we got a system, and we're going to have a lot more people. Normally at Liberty Lake, I would say 40% of families normally dropped their kids off and didn't take the bus, and 60% took the bus. This year, I'm guessing it's going to flip, and now 60% of the people are probably going to be dropping their kids off and not taking the bus. Okay, so we gotta keep it moving. In the afternoon, the way it works is that you come down that driveway. Okay, so nobody does boo until the buses leave. The buses leave at about 4 o'clock. Okay, and then usually at that point, there's already a 1/4 mile line to the street. It is a 1/4 mile, my driveway. And I really don't need you guys being backed up to 295. So you don't have to get there at 4. It is fine to get there at 4:15. We are widening the window of the afternoon discount to 4:30 this year. Okay. So feel free to come at 4:15 when you don't have to wait in that long line. So you come down that line, you will have your car placard. We're also going to email it to you. You can have it as a picture on your phone. But the thing is that the person that's at the gate needs to be able to really read it, right? So if this person is reading Brooklyn Pinkerton, right, and they're going to know it at some point, right? But they need to read. So the woman in the afternoon, her name is OJ. It's going to be a new person this year. She has a microphone, a wireless microphone, and she says, Brooklyn Pinkerton, come on down, like it's The Price is Right. And by the time Dad does the loop, the theory is that Brooklyn will be waiting there with her backpack. We open the door, she gets in, he never gets out, and he pulls away. And it just works like clockwork. All right, so that's how that normally works.
Will masks be needed on campers for drop-off?
I don't think masks are going to be needed on campers on drop off because we're going to be really we're going to be really cognizant of it. I think the question is, will masks be needed by my staff?
Yeah,
Kids are not going to need them, but my staff who are helping kids get out of the bus, they'll be encouraged to wear masks for the little kids that are coming out that need help, no doubt.
Will the bus stops be normal, or will there be more limited options?
The bus stops are going to be normal. We have kids still coming from everywhere. There's just less of them taking the bus per se, and and they're still coming from every town, and it doesn't really. We're going to have more buses anyway, so what the heck? Let's let them go to more stops.
And with that, will there be flexibility of like changing the bus if needed?
Yeah, I mean, if people need to change the bus, they'll change the bus. Again, we're not considering, and the state of New Jersey is not considering the bus a close quarter situation because they're going to be separate there, and they're going to be in different seats. And if you've ever been a little kid on a bus, the seats are literally over your head, right? So they're not considering that a close proximity situation with other kids. So changing the bus theoretically should work. I would certainly discourage it. I would say let's try not to add variables to this if at all possible.
The issue is not having seats.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. There needs to be seats available too. All right.
And that's it for transportation.
Okay, let's keep going. Thank you, Taylor. All right, lunch and drinks. So it's going to be very similar. The big thing is that we normally have like a salad bar that rivals, a really nice restaurant. And, the Ruby Tuesdays or whatever. And we're not going to have the Ruby Tuesdays salad bar. So when the kids come in the morning, they still make their lunch order. And if they want a salad, I think what we're talking about is they're either going to order a side salad or a salad as an entree. That will determine the size of the salad. And, we're just not going to put as many funky things in the salad. I still need to have my hummus every day. So we will have hummus on that salad bar. And, what?
There's no salad bar.
Yeah, no salad bar. In regards to pasta, we normally have a pasta bar too. What we're talking about is having 3 different stations set up depending, because we're spreading these kids out. If you came right now and saw our lunch tent, I'll take a picture and put it on social media. But we have the lunch tent is basically, we have very big picnic tables here. So 2 picnic tables should be a group. And so we have 2 picnic tables and then space. 2 picnic tables and then space all the way through. And then we're using not just the big lunch tent area, but if you sort of go away from the lake, there's also 2 30 by 30 tents. So that's 60 feet by 30, which is almost as big as a lunch tent. And we're going to have the tables there also. So we're having, in essence, 2 lunch tents this year. And if we need to have more, we'll have more, but I don't think we're going to need to. So for pasta, as well as seconds, if the kids want seconds, we're going to have them laying out on a table where they can sort of just go up on their own and grab it, right? That is currently the model we're working with. One important thing about food also, Liberty Lake is good at food, and we have a Renaissance fair, and we make turkey legs, and we have picnics on the weekend, blah, blah, blah. So we're good at that kind of barbecue thing. But for this situation, because we just want to be extra, extra careful, we went out and we found an executive chef, like an executive level, high-powered, super expensive chef that is going to oversee the entire food process. He's going to oversee our guy who has been overseeing our food service, because this guy has done it at country clubs and catering halls and restaurants and even at other camps. So we're very lucky to have this guy, Chef Ed. And, hopefully it's a 1-year thing and he will help us for the future. And we're just looking at it as an investment. Okay. So the kids are not going to be grabbing the pictures like they know. Normally, we really empower the children at this camp. So this year, the counselors are going to be doing a lot more. My counselors and group leaders this year are going to be working their tails off, plain and simple. That's just the only way this is going to work. Water. So we normally, the main water source here, like throughout the day, is normally these sort of golf club huts that have the 10-gallon water jugs in them and paper cups. That is still the main way of using water. The difference will be that there'll be antibacterial stuff for them because, of course, they have to touch the spigot thing to get the water come out, right? We have these 2 giant water monsters, which have like 16 spigots, okay? Same thing there. The water fountains we have 3 really nice water fountains. We're not going to be using them. We have a water bottle filling station for kids that want to do that with their water bottles. Normally, we discourage water bottles because kids lose them, right? If it's a 100-degree day, you could send your kid with a water bottle. I would say that a younger kid, someone like little Aaron Life down there, I would send him with like a disposable one, right? That, you know, he could lose and not worry about. I would not send one of those like unbelievable, like, you know, igloo camel things that cost $35 with a little kid. I wouldn't do that. But for an older kid who's going to be carrying a backpack around and stuff, they want to carry a water bottle, they can. Just make sure the name's on it, okay? I know a lot of camps, a lot of the day camps that are running still in this pandemic, they're not letting kids bring water bottles. I say older kids. That's what I say. All right. Yeah, everything is pretty much the same there with lunch and drinks. Orientation. So normally we had that big, awesome meet and greet where you come and meet the counselors. I was trying really hard this weekend to reimagine that in Zoom and put you guys into different Zoom rooms and all that kind of stuff. And I started hemorrhaging in my brain. I couldn't do it. So it's too much. So what we're going to do this year is on our final staff orientation, which is June 30th, which is like 2 weeks from tomorrow, I think, we're going to have the counselors record a video of themselves. So the 3 or 4 counselors will do like a video interview of themselves. I have all the questions laid out. And we're also going to have that done by the division leaders. And we're going to send you guys a link. We're going to have it on a private YouTube thing, and you guys will be able to meet the counselors that way. Now, your division leaders, by this weekend, are still going to email you and introduce themselves to you. And you can email them back, and if you want to set up a time and talk about your kid with your division leader, they're more than happy to do that, okay? But we can't do the face-to-face thing. That's part of the whole state said no face-to-face things, no visitors, no trips, no nothing like that, right? We got to keep this place, you know, with just the kids and the staff. So in regards to the nurses, if you need to drop meds, I mean, if they're just regular things that you can send on the first day and put them in a bag with the original bottle, with the prescription on it, okay? Not in a little plastic bag with the kid's name written in a Sharpie, not that, okay? It's gotta be in the real legit bottle. You could send that in on the first day. If it's something that you're concerned about, that you wanna talk about with the nurses, I have amazing nurse staff this year. They'll be happy to speak with you. You could come and drop it off at the camp beforehand. You could even make an appointment to meet the nurses here if you wanna talk to them about it, but of course you could just talk to them on the phone. So in regards to the nurses, normally we have 2 RNs on staff, which, by the way, is 1 more RN than almost every other staff, any other camp I know. This year, we're going to have 4, okay? So I have a woman that has been a school nurse and a camp nurse for 20, 30 years. Her name is Jill. She is Nurse Jill as opposed to Wife Jill over here. I have Vanessa, who's new, who is not only an amazing nurse, who's worked at hospitals and schools, but she is actually a professor of nursing at both Rowan and Rutgers. So that's really great. Third nurse is Nurse Marilyn, who was an Army nurse at Fort Bragg and all these other places for 20 years. So has like front line, ready for the pandemic, nurse going. And she's also going to be the dietary specialist. So she's going to be reaching out to you, Eve. And then the 4th one is someone right out of nursing school named Rachel, whose kid has been here for a couple of years. That's our medical team. So we really have bolstered things up there. I'm very proud of them, and they're all like ready to go for this.
Question.
Yeah.
Can asthma, like kids that have asthma, carry their own inhaler, or should they be in their nurse's office?
The question is about asthma and inhalers. Normally, if it's the kind of asthma that only happens once in a blue moon, we usually recommend it to stay in the nurse's office. If it's the kind of thing that you're really worried about, especially on a hot and humid day, they can carry it with them, especially if they're older. That's fine. You know, it's a little different this year. Normally, we were sort of dead set against that kind of thing because the counselors were always splitting up, just like the kids were at electives. But now, the counselor is going to be with the kids all day. So theoretically, the counselor can even potentially hold it. All right. When it comes to asthma and inhalers, every kid is different, right? But I would say the majority of kids that we've had inhalers have stayed at the nurse's office because the centralized location is not going to get lost, et cetera, et cetera. We good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. No visitors beyond the front gate. No overnights. No overnights.
On that note, what about the senior dance?
Senior dance, we at this point probably not, but we're trying to figure out ways to create a socially distanced thing, because we know the schools don't want to try these things, but we're Liberty Lake. We like trying things. So it's not completely off the table, but we didn't put it on the calendar because we don't want kids to look forward to it and then not do it. So we're trying to come up with scenarios with this. Personally, right now, if I would guess, I'd say no, but you never know. Brandy, who works with me, is an extremely creative person. So we talked about the meet and greet. All right, parent responsibility. So, I've been reading more and more about this. So I'm glad I'm reading about these things. So it's not just me saying this. So when I talked to my new friend, the CEO of that giant health system, right? And I said to him, what is the number one thing that I should be drilling home with staff and parents? And he said, the kids generally don't get sick from this virus, right? But adults do, right? Staff and adults do. And so what we have to do is people have to realize that they are, I'm telling my staff that they're like essential workers, right? And when you're an essential worker, you have to not just, recognize that you're doing something that might be potentially dangerous, right? And really take a lot of precautions in what you do. But when you're not at work, when you're not at the hospital, you also have to watch yourself and not be partying and doing stupid things with strangers and all that kind of stuff too, because you would therefore then be jeopardizing the essential worker people that you're working with, right? So in essence, you guys are the essential workers. My camp families are the essential workers in this proposition, right? So you're the essential workers sending your kids to this daycare situation so that my essential workers can take care of your kids, right? So what that means is that you guys need to think about that also and consider that. I've given probably 100 tours in the last 3 weeks, right? 100 families have come through. I haven't personally done 100, but 100 families have come through the last few weeks, all the refugees. And most of them are thrilled. They can't believe it. They're so psyched. Thank you so much, Andy. We're so happy you're doing this, right? I had this one family that the mom was literally on the verge of a nervous breakdown the entire time that I was doing the tour. She was so nervous about this idea, and she was just looking around and asking me all these unanswerable questions. And they were very nice, and the husband was very nice also. And they were just a wonderful family, but they were so nervous. I was just like, why are you even considering this? Just don't send your kids to camp this year. Like, why do you want to? Meanwhile, they were a hardcore camp family. Like, their kids had been to another camp for years. The older one had been at a sleepaway camp that got canceled, right? So anyway, they left. I thought, I'll never see them again. 2 days later, I get their registration. And I'm like, wow. So I emailed the dad back, and I'm like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, there's, what gives, And he says to me, you know what? Camp is so important for my kids this summer. My kids have been cooped up for what will soon be 4 months, and they're losing their minds. And I need to get them outside, playing with other children, being social again, because I'm really worried about them. And it's a priority for me and my wife. And we have decided as a family that the time that the 4 weeks that my kids are coming to you, that we are going to quarantine again like it's April. And we are not going to go out and visit family, and we are not going to go to, Memorial Day weekend parties and all that kind of thing, that we're going to play it cool because it is such a priority to us for our kids to have a good time this summer. And I was just like, holy crap. I was just blown away by that. And it sort of just helped reframe the whole proposition to me. Same way, my son went to, he had leukemia. He went to CHOP with my wife, and they were talking to the head of oncology there, who basically told him the same sort of thing, because he was all proud of himself. Like, I'm going to work at camp and be an essential worker. And she's like, yeah, you know what that means? That means no fun for you this summer, buddy. That means you need to play it cool. right? You can't go around calling yourself an essential worker and not understand that it's twofold, right? So this is the kind of thing that we're going to be stressing with our staff, to do it as well as we can. Yeah.
Like 3 minutes away from now.
Yeah, it's okay. This is normally like 2 hours.
Okay.
So one of the questions just popped up I want to address really quick is about the CIT and LIT program.
Yeah.
So the CIT issue and LIT things. So they're still going to be able to do things together, obviously. They're still going to be able to do their workshops. They're still going to be able to do activities and projects together. The issue is them dropping in to groups and helping out with special events and stuff like that. And we're not 100% sure yet in figuring it out. But what I can assure you is they will have the opportunity, but it's going to be one of 2 things. They're either going to be embedded in a group, which is probably not going to happen. But if they were, they would just be part of that group. Or they're going to be like specialists where they're going to have to stay socially distanced or masked or something, right? But they're not just going to be able to bop around like they normally did in other situations. But we're working really, really hard to make this an awesome program for them. It's just going to be a little bit different. That's just the way it's going to have to be. But I am confident. We have a great team of people working there, and they are dedicated to making this like an even better summer than it would normally be. Okay, so we talked about parent responsibility, staff responsibility, being vigilant. Okay, so now here's the big bonus question from the beginning. So what happens if somebody gets COVID, right? And it's most likely going to be a staff member, right? Or even a parent at home. So the first bullet point addresses the parent at home. So what if Mr. Logan over here, all right, gets coronavirus? Yeah, got the antibodies, Rob. So so it says here, the camper or the staff person must stay home, right? So this is like, what if the parent of a staff member also got it? They would have to stay home, practice social distancing, monitor symptoms. The camper or staff would not be able to come back for 14 days after the confirmed parent no longer has the thing. But the key point to that bullet point is the whole group does not have to go home. Okay, so this is if the parent, this is if not if the main person, but this is if someone in their family has tested positive. Okay, and this is tested positive. This is not exhibited symptoms. That's different too. Exhibited symptoms, it's, a waiting period. Goes home with a fever. Okay, the difference this year used to be 48 hours fever free. Now the government's telling us 72 hours, 3 days fever free. That's what the government's telling us. All right. Parents are notified that they are in contact with someone who tested positive. So you're always going to find out about these kind of things in confidence, right? The kids can still come to camp as long as the parent stays asymptomatic. If it becomes symptomatic, then it's a thing above, all right, where they have to stay home. All right. If a staff or camper, I put camper in parentheses because we're not really planning on kids getting this. But if a staff tests positive, the staff would not come to work for 7 days after you develop symptoms and 72 hours, 3 days after the fever has ended without use of fever-reducing medications, right? If the staff is part of a camper group, the group would have to self-isolate for 14 days from the last day they were in contact with the staff. So that's the big bummer. And that's what I'm going to be stressing with the staff for them to be responsible, because I don't want this one staff person that makes poor judgment to then mess things up for their whole camp, because I would think they would feel pretty darn guilty about that. If that happened this year and your group had to be knocked out for a little bit, just know you would get credited for this. Okay, it's not your guys' fault. You understand. Yeah, general staff. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So if it's a specialist or something, if it's someone that does not come in close contact with you, we would let you guys know that this kind of thing has happened, but it shouldn't affect your kid because this person would not have been in contact with your kid, right? And when we're talking about close contact is defined as closer than 6 feet for more than 10 minutes at a time. All right. So they're saying even bus staff would not necessarily be that person, although we'll talk to the bus staff and find out if they were that person, because if they were spending a lot of time with their kid, we'd certainly let you know that too. All right. And we talked about what you can be doing now to ensure your family stays healthy and that you stay healthy. We talked about that. Campers or staff do not have to get tested prior to working at camp. That's not a requirement. And we know that tests just matter for that moment, right? So if somebody got tested a week ago, you know, they could still come to camp and theoretically, you know, be positive. We're just relying on the temp checks and the health screenings, and trying to be vigilant on that. And there's the symptoms again. Well, these are other questions that I've gotten over the days. Yeah, Taylor.
God forbid a kid gets the coronavirus. Will they get a credit for those weeks that they cannot come?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, anybody gets anything to do with coronavirus, we're going to be as generous as humanly possible about this. This is not your fault. This is a crazy situation. We're crediting everybody. I mean, frankly, we even have to pay our staff. It's the law if something happens with that, right? So we're certainly going to credit you guys if we have to pay our staff, right? In regards to cards, someone asked me this question the other day. I thought it was an interesting question. They can, within the group, they can do anything, right? They can play Gaga, they can play cards. Doesn't matter, right? Magic cards, whatever. Will camp have to close if someone contracts COVID? So the Department of Health is keeping that very hazy, right? They're trying to keep that in a way that they can make the decision on that. They don't, let's fast forward to September. They don't want to have to close down a school, right? Because one person gets COVID, right? So they certainly don't want to have to close down a camp either. So they want to do what it takes to continue the service of camp and all. And you know, if there is a positive COVID case, we're going to report it. They're going to send their little SWAT team of contact tracers out, you know, and then they'll make recommendations on that. From what they've told us, unless there is an outbreak, unless they deem it as like a legit outbreak, and oh my God, there's 6 people and there's 12 staff and all that kind of thing. Like unless something like that happens, they don't want to have to close down the camp. But if they have to, then they will. You know, plain and simple. We'll all take that risk. But by the way, as Eve, who's on this call, knows, like there are camps that there has been outbreaks of other things, and they have had to close camps for a day or two in order to do things. And whether it's closed for a day to completely clean the place and then let people come back, you know, there's all variations to this theme. And the state of New Jersey actually employs virologists and epidemiologists, and, you know, they have their council of people. What happens when it rains? So just like normal, you know, we get under the pavilions and we spread out as much as we can. There are some camps, colleagues of mine, who are instituting this year snow days, except rain days. So I'm considering that, but I'm likely not going to do that because I have spoken to so many essential workers who send their kids who really need this. And I don't want to rule those people out. And frankly, we have space at Liberty Lake. We're on 60 acres. We have lots of tents, lots of pavilions, okay? And we'll make it work. Normally during rainy day situations, we've made it work and they've stayed together in relatively small groups. So we're just going to do it again. My guess is that if we knew that it was going to be a rainy day, my guess is that we'd probably have 30% of the population probably wouldn't come to camp that day because of just knowing the situation, right? Because if you really want to play it safe and you really want to make sure you're doing everything you can to keep your kids safe, then on a rainy day, if it was going to be a washout day, I'm not talking chance of rain, I'm talking washout, then yeah, there's going to be more times that your kid's going to be in close quarters. There just is, you know. And every camp's dealing with this, right? The Hamilton Y that's down the street from here, they've decided that they're going to run. God bless them, all right? And they have a giant, beautiful gymnasium. And they said, even on the rainiest day, we're not using that darn thing because we don't want to deal with all the close quarter issues that are involved. So we're staying separate. What I can tell you in regards to rain, and I say this in complete truth, I'm not twisting truth here, okay? That the past few years, anytime it has rained in the middle of the day, it has been the kind of thing where it just comes through. I'm talking like real rain. Not, remember, at Liberty Lake, a light drizzle does not mean rain, right? I'm talking like legit rain, thunderstorm. It comes through for 15, 20 minutes. We hunker down, and then we move on with our day, okay? And then most days in the summer, it's humid, builds up. And at 4 o'clock, as soon as we get the kids on the buses, baboosh, the skies open up and it rains for 2 hours straight. That tends to be the way it works in Jersey with the humidity and all that kind of thing. Just historical. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I am not Nostradamus, but I'm just saying. If a camper wants another serving of food, can they get it? We talked about that. What happens if a camper doesn't want any of the electives? Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So this has been a question that Liberty Lake has never experienced before, except in the Turtles division, where they have to do what they got. So in most other camps, okay, I'm the group leader, you're all my campers, and I say, okay, guys, we're all going to basketball now. Isn't that great? And like 25% of you are like, no, we don't want to go to basketball, right? So this year, they're going to basketball, or the other choice. Remember, always two choices, the active, the passive, okay? If a kid doesn't want to go to either, guess what? That's not a choice. You have to go with whichever counselor you want to go with, and you're going to one of these things. So again, please prep your children on this, okay? Because Liberty Lake, you know, because of all the choice that we have here, we could create little tyrants unintentionally. I remember the first year we started Liberty Lake. My wife is back here. She's going to laugh. First year we had Liberty Lake, we came up with this crazy elective system, and we came home, and it was like the first night of no camp. And my daughter was like, "What's for dinner?" And my wife was like, "Meatloaf." And she was just like, "What's the alternative?" You know? And we're like, "No, this isn't camp. Okay, it's meatloaf, buddy." Like, people have to understand, like, this is reality, right? This is what we're doing here. And it's 2020. They should be happy they're outdoors and having a good time. Contact sports. So people that read the news and you know, the news loves scaring us. There will be no contact sports at summer camps this year. Yeah, but you know what they're talking about? They're talking about wrestling and tackle football, neither of which we do, okay? Gaga gets a little physical, but guess what? They're only playing Gaga with the group. Yeah.
Have you mentioned that with their electives, it's based on what the group really wants to do?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Making sure.
Yeah.
I know that's been a big question on the phone call.
Yeah. No extra lunch periods. We have 3 lunch periods. And, you know, so you figure if there's going to be 500 or 600 kids and 200 staff, divide that by 3. So let's say that's, 250, like we can do that. We have the space for that. We do. Yeah, that's my thing.
Okay. I have a couple.
All right, hit me. Taylor's my assistant here.
How will the ceremony for the 5 and 10 year anniversaries be? Well,
Yeah.
I'm 15. I'm one of them.
There you go. We have to write that down.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. What are we going to do for the 5-year jackets and the 10-year plaques and the 15-year thing? Poor Taylor over here. It's her 15-year thing. She's going to get the golden slushy pass. We're going to have to do that. Well, we're going to do it by division. We'll do it by division when they're here. So this is the thing, Joe. We're going to have to find out when these kids are in camp so that we can do it. We're going to have to. Huh? We can order them now.
We'll try.
Well, we're going to do the best we can. And we'll do our best we can to have those ceremonies in camp. All right? Oh, something I didn't talk about because we actually just thought of it today. As you see, this is fluid, as we call it, right? So Friday assemblies, right? So we're not doing Monday assemblies. Okay, forget that. All right? We don't need to do that. But Friday assemblies, we would like to be able to do some version of. Because remember, there's still going to be kids practicing dances all week. There's still going to be kids doing fencing. There's still going to be kids doing week-long electives, and we would love them to perform. So we are about to embark on a construction project. Yes, only 2.5 weeks before camp starts, much to the chagrin of my wife again, who on our lower field, which is a big field, okay, we are going to build a stage, okay, because the amphitheater, forget it. Like the way it's all cramped together, that's not going to work for social distancing, right? So we're actually doing this for staff orientation because staff orientation, we have, 250 staff at a time, and we want to be able to spread out too. So we're going to build a big 20 by 20 whatever stage down there in the lower field. And like you've seen those pictures of like the parks, you see pictures of like Fairmount Park and Central Park in New York, where you have like little circles with the groups hanging out. We're going to try, only on nice days, obviously, we'll be able to do this. Have the groups be able to spread out and be able to watch other groups perform. That is our goal. That is our aspirational goal. That, again, will be a fair weather goal also. If it's not a good weather thing, then we won't be able to do it. But we would like the kids to be able to perform for each other.
Another one, color war.
Color war. Heck yeah, we're doing color war. How we're going to do it? I don't know. But we're definitely doing color war. We came up with color war legacy for life. Everybody's got the same color. We have to continue somehow. So we're going to be able to practice socially distant. We're going to be able to do it somehow. We'll come up with some way of doing this. And again, if we spread out on that big field, we can do it also there too. It's certainly not optimal, but I don't want to crush color war. To me, even if it's 20% of what we usually do. I still want to have some sort of thing here for the kids to look forward to.
Don Brooks said, so like the Friday assemblies will be more like Campapalooza.
Well, they're not going to be like Campapalooza, and that Campapalooza is a free-for-all. So Campapalooza, they're going to have to stay with their groups more. They're not going to just be moving around. But yes, Dawn, Friday assemblies are going to look a little like Campapalooza, but they're going to be structured a lot more.
Oh, she said, as far as the stage thing.
Yes, as far as stage, but not there. The Campapalooza stage was on the other side of the creek. We're talking about doing it on the lower field, down, on the lower quadrant, away from the lake.
Here's 2 questions from the beginning of the session
Mm-hmm.
that kind of fit anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked into the hats that are a plastic face shield for people who may not be able to wear a traditional mask?
Yes, we have a bunch of face shields. We actually got donated a whole bunch by an elementary school the other day. But if anybody wants to send me what those hats with the face shields look like, send an email to andy@libertylakedaycamp.com. That's fine. I got a message also here. Are the buses air conditioned? Yes, they are air conditioned. So the idea is, again, on a day like today, that was 75 degrees and nice, especially in the mornings, it's generally cooler in the mornings. The idea is to not use the air conditioning and keep the windows open, to just keep the air flowing, right? But if it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a 100-degree day and these kids are sweltering, then yes, we're going to be using the air conditioning on the buses, no doubt about it. There's a question here about bathrooms. The bathrooms are going to be like I was saying, that's on the regiment with the playgrounds and the changing rooms. That's for our Ghostbusters team. Dawn's on here. She's part of the Ghostbusters team. So they're going to be taken care of regularly. I would say my guess is going to be on the hour. They'll be taken care of. And for those of you who have come to family night and gone into the bathrooms and been like, yep, this is a camp bathroom, but they ain't going to look like that. Okay, they're going to be in much better shape. They're going to be much cleaner than ever before. I wouldn't eat off the floor, but they're going to be a lot cleaner. They're going to have to be. There's a question here about the groups being gender only or mixed. So this is honestly the worst part of the whole pandemic camp thing for me, is that I am like the flag bearer of like co-ed camp, right? And gender neutral camp and all that kind of thing, right? Liberty Lake is the most co-ed camp that I know of, except for one other, in regards to, like, we may have single gender groups, but then they're homerooms and then they move things around. And generally they only wear single gender so that they can go to the bathroom and go to the changing rooms together for swim and stuff like that. The issue here, so we had to make a big choice, so we had to make it quickly. So we're going to have these big groups of 20. The question was, are we going to have groups of 10 and 10 boys, 10 girls and push it together? Or are we going to have 20 single gender? And we opted for the single gender, not just because of the changing rooms, but because so many kids have made so many requests to be with their friends. And to me, it was a priority that they be with their friends who they have not seen in so long, and have them be a part of the group. I didn't want to have to break these friendship groups apart in order to keep a ratio of 1-to-1 with girls and boys. So that stinks. I'm not happy about that, but that's why that's happening. Anything else?
Will you have LLDC gators available for purchase?
LLDC gators?
Yeah.
Oh, the face things? Yeah, let me see what they look like. I ordered a whole bunch of them. Let me see what they look like. And I think they cost me around $5 each. So yeah, if they're cool, I'll make a second order and we'll have them at the Snack Shack. We got them in red, white, and blue. So they got them for their color war colors, right? So they should look pretty cool. But sometimes I buy these things and they don't look as good as the brochure. So we'll see. The pool is open. Swimming lessons are happening.
Yeah,
don't believe the hype about the pools. All right, good. Last call for questions, folks.
Will there be any protocols in place for children with anxiety in larger groups?
All right, great question. All right, so the question is about anxiety and such like that, okay? Thank God we employ one of the greatest social workers that I've ever experienced in my life, this Kathy Fisher woman. And, she's always been one of the hardest working people at the camp. During the camp day, she's like my consigliere. Like she She completes me. Like, she's able to handle things that is completely out of my realm. And we're able to save situations that most camps would never be able to save. Yeah, I'm going to need 5 Kathys this year, most likely. Because remember, Kathy, the social worker, she doesn't just work with kids. She works with staff. And think about these high school kids, too, and college kids who, are also just rejoining society now. But she is on call for you. So if you have any concerns about your kids that you would like to actually speak with her about, she's been in here every weekend, the last 3 weekends, calling people. Her email is, I'm going to type it into, wait, how do I get out of this? I'm on a private thing. Let me get out.
Oh, yeah, you have to hit all.
Come here.
Are you still sharing your screen?
No, send chat to all. I can't do it. Anyway, her email, come here. Her email is Kathy@LibertyLakeDayCamp.com. Kathy, C, this thing?
Uh-huh. And then everyone in meeting.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat. Thanks, Taylor.
Yep, gotcha.
All right, so you email Kathy and she'll get back to you. She's wonderful. Kathy is, oh man, just so priceless. She's been going to camp herself since she was like 3 years old. She went to day camp, sleepaway camp, worked at camps her whole life. She's a social worker in the New Brunswick School District, and she has her own private practice in Princeton. She's just amazing.
Question?
Yeah.
How will kids get their camp backpack, shirt, and place card?
Oh, great question. I got to get that on my info list. So obviously no meet and greet, right? So we're doing the whole first day of camp thing. So we're going to mail the placards and the first day of camp sticker. That we're going to mail to you, okay? But in regards to the backpack and the t-shirt and all that, send your kid on their first day with if we could be perfect here, perfect world, a little drawstring backpack. Drawstring, like those little dinky drawstring ones, because that one, you could take the stuff out, put it into the camp backpack, and squeeze up the drawstring thing and throw it in there too. All right, so that would be my preference, right? Don't send like one of those horrible plastic bags you get from Acme that are not going to make it off the bus, okay? But yeah, or don't send a big giant school backpack either. It looks like they're going, they're raiding the beach in Normandy or something like that. Like some small drawstring thing that we can then put into the camp backpack. So they will come home on their first day with the camp backpack. Thank you so much for asking that question, because I need to start including that. Kelly asked when they're going to find out what group their kid's in. We're finalizing all that information right now. We pretty much have it. If you have any concerns right now, you want to make sure your kid's in a group, blah, 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 thing, just email me. But we're going to find out real soon. We're going to send out a thing very shortly on that.
Will younger campers continue to leave their bags in the changing tent?
Yes, younger kids are going to leave their bags in the changing tent 100%, right? But this is an important, not overnight though. Okay, so yeah, so overnight, so aftercare is not going to use the pool, because again, that was a whole commingling thing. So aftercare, if it's really hot, we'll turn the Make It Rain system on. We'll jump through the irrigation system or something, to cool off. But they're not going swimming. So because at 4 o'clock, as soon as camp ends, we're sending Ghostbusters down to the changing rooms, all right, to do that up. So I would prefer that you not leave stuff at camp, because otherwise it's going to get cleaned on the reg. Yeah. Well, I mean, if someone leaves it there, they leave it there, But we would prefer that you bring stuff home, because we really have to clean those changing rooms. Great question again. Updated spirit calendar, yeah, that's up there. All these things, by the way, all these, as things get updated, the new menu, which we're about to get put out, the new parent handbook, the safety plan and operations guide, it's all going to be sent to you with links. But also when you go to the Liberty Lake homepage, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a thing to log into CampMinder, and then there's one that says Quick Links. Quick Links has all the links to all those resources, all right? Just laid out there for you. How we doing? We good?
Yep. All
right. I appreciate all the thanks, everybody. This has been really, really hard. As much as I'm looking forward to the summer, I'm also looking forward to September and go to sleep again. There's a whole bunch of camps. There's literally, I think there's like 8 private camps in New Jersey that are still running, and we're like the survivors group, and we connect with each other on a regular basis and share, best practices. And yeah, we're planning on something when this whole thing is over. So listen, I appreciate, you see, we came up with 3 things. People named 3 things tonight that I had not thought about. Okay. I am only human. So please do not feel like you're stepping on toes or whatever, passive aggressive things people say, email me your thoughts, right? Email me suggestions, anything, it takes a village, right? And this takes a village in order to pull this thing off. So I really appreciate the confidence that you have in us. And we're ready to come through with flying colors. My staff, I would say that out of the 225 staff that I had hired when this thing hit, I think I lost 12 of them to COVID-related things. 12, right? And half of them was because they had a sick person at home that they care for, and they didn't want to get sick, okay? I have a friend that runs a camp in a more bougie side of New Jersey that lost 100 staff. 100 staff. It's the reason he's not opening. Is because including 15 of his top leadership people, right? So I think I have a very unique staff that comes from your neighborhoods. These are your friends. These are your friends' kids, right? Who are just ready to do this and ready to do what it takes. So if you talk to any of these people, you can stress my whole social responsibility thing to them, because that is going to be the theme song of Liberty Lake. Thanks a lot. You could always reach me, Andy at libertylakedaycamp.com. So let me know when a good time to call is, and I'll give you a buzz. See you on the other side, folks. Hey, Cindy.
Hi. Say hi.
Good seeing you.
Say hi, Andy.
Bob.
What's up, Andy?
Bob.
Bye-bye.
Bob.
All right. Everybody heard
Bob.
40 times.